Hello friends, welcome back to more Reddit stories about entitled people, crazy people, and everything in between. So I hope you're all doing awesome today. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't yet, and let's get right into today's Reddit posts. Mike has a learning disability. He didn't mean it. I was talking to my former manager Oscar, who I'm good friends with, and he just shared this wild story about one of his photographers. Let's call him Drew. Drew started as a photographer a few months after I left the company, and he was thriving. One morning, Drew was photographing when a mom, a dad, and two boys, age 14 and 10, show up. At the park, you can get buttons designating certain celebrations, like birthdays, wedding anniversaries, honeymoons, etc. Both the boys are wearing birthday buttons, and Drew wishes them a happy birthday. They get their photos taken, and it's time for the magic shot, where a character appears in your photo. If there's a celebration button, Drew will have the person wearing said button do the magic shot. If there's more than one, they will all get a magic shot. However, because there's two of them, Drew plays eeny meeny miny mo to pick who will get the magic shot first. He picks the 10-year-old, let's call him Jeff. This makes the 14-year-old, let's call him Mike, start screaming like crazy. Before Drew realizes what's happening, Mike manages to get his hands wrapped around Drew's throat and squeezes. Fortunately, several other cast members / guests rush to the rescue and pull Mike off. Security and OC Sheriff get called to the scene along with Oscar. Mom begins screaming, "Mike has a learning disability. He didn't mean it." They get escorted off to start paperwork, interviewing everyone, etc. While Oscar is waiting for Drew, he notices little Jeff sitting on a chair crying. Oscar, who has two kids himself, one of whom has autism, sits down next to him and asks what's wrong. He learns from Jeff that due to Mike's disability, Jeff had to share everything and was basically left to the wayside. This included birthdays, where Mike also got presents and cake, so he won't feel left out. It was Jeff's birthday that day, and when the kind cast member offered him a birthday button, Mike also demanded one, even though it wasn't his birthday. Mike also beat up Jeff too, to the point he'd have bruising, but never faced consequences for his actions. Oscar told me that he was stunned at the level of entitlement this kid had. It's clear Mike's biggest problem was that he was coddled. As soon as the social worker from the Department of Family Services arrived, Oscar alerted her about Mike beating up Jeff. Mike got banned from the park. A kid getting banned is really rare, and had to go to court. If I recall correctly, he was charged as an adult. The judge wasn't sympathetic at all and told the parents that they had created this monster, and that it was time Mike faced the consequences since they, mom and dad, had failed to teach him right from wrong. He had to serve a year on probation, several hundred hours of community service, and mandated therapy. Oscar learned later on that Jeff's teachers / other concerned adults had reported Mike's abuse to DFS, but for whatever reason, nothing was ever done. As a result of the incident at the park, their parents had to go to court to fight so Jeff wouldn't end up in foster care. Fortunately, that didn't happen, but the family will receive periodic, i.e. random, welfare checks until Jeff turns 18. Drew was fine. He just had some bruising and was back at work the next day. To this day, Oscar still thinks about Jeff and hopes he's okay. Yeah, honestly, coddled is a pretty light way of putting it. You know you're dealing with some terrible parents when their kid literally grabs you by the throat, and all they have to say is, "Oh, it's okay, he has a learning disability." It's like, even if that is the case, that doesn't mean that you as a parent just stand aside and let him do what he wants. That's probably a line that they just repeat verbatim whenever he does something that's not okay. This is a situation where it's probably a good thing that the law and family services finally got involved, because otherwise they'd probably just continue to let their own kid grow up to be a total menace. That's discrimination. Sir, I literally just asked for your ID. We get people from all over the world coming to stay in the hotel I work at. Every country has their own ID system. We accept any valid form of government-issued identification, driver's license, passport, and ID cards. Not every country uses their driver's licenses as their ID. But one thing is written in stone, and that's the fact that we have to have a valid ID in order to rent you a room. I don't care if your address is already listed on the reservation. We need your ID to validate and confirm your identity. It gives us a way to contact you or return lost items in the mail. It gives us the information we need for our records so we have evidence if you come back and say, "I never agreed or signed that." It shows us your age, and it allows us to pursue legal recourse if you screw up your room and then shut off your credit card. or if you've harassed or threatened a staff member, committed a crime on the property. And so we know who you are in case there's a wanted bulletin out for you, and you're staying in our hotel trying to flee your crime scene. So many reasons. It's important to hotel security and safety. But now and then we get someone who gets mad about us asking for their license, usually because that's private information. It's not. It's publicly available information. But this guy pulled a crazy reason straight out of his ass. I'll call him Ben. Ben comes in and stands in front of the desk, and I pull up his reservation. I ask for his ID and he doesn't give it to me. I repeat myself and say I need his ID. Well, what if I'm not comfortable giving it to you? If you're not comfortable giving me your ID, then I'm not comfortable giving you a room. Sorry, that's our policy. So Ben grumbles and tosses his ID on the counter, and I start the process of checking him in. He was silent for a second before blurting out, "What if someone doesn't have an ID? Not everyone can drive." We take any form of government-issued ID, including passports. Some people don't have an ID. So what, you're going to discriminate against all the people who can't drive or don't have an ID? I blink at him a few times before saying, "Sir, we occasionally have Amish guests, and even they provide us with an ID without hesitation or complaint. I have friends who don't drive. So what, you're telling me you're going to kick someone out on the streets if they don't have an ID? If someone refuses to present an ID, I guess they'll just have to sleep on the sidewalk. This is a discriminatory policy. You're discriminating against anyone who doesn't drive or have an ID. That's ridiculous. Not everyone has an ID, and it's ridiculous that your policy includes blatant discrimination." Ben was getting red in the face with how upset he was over this whole thing. Like, dude, you already gave me your ID. The moment has passed. It's approximately, check's watch, time for you to shut the up. I handed him his keys and told him to have a lovely evening. I had to bite my tongue to avoid saying something that I definitely would not regret. Come on, I mean seriously. What are you hiding, bro? Getting all bent out of shape over an ID card just makes you look suspicious. Ben, f***ing Ben. He mumbled and stomped off to his room, and I didn't see him for the rest of the night. Yeah, this guy's definitely just making a big deal out of nothing. It's obviously not discrimination. And he also doesn't seem to realize you can have an ID without having a driver's license or a passport. Some woman stood in my flat, right next to the shower curtain. This happened a few years ago in my old one-person flat. I had a strange feeling that something wasn't right for a few days. Like I was sure that food in the fridge was less than I put back the last time. I found pillows from my couch on the floor, stuff like that. I lived alone back then, so there wasn't anyone else with access to my flat, or so I thought. Well, one night I woke up around 1 in the morning, sweating, and even though I don't remember, was sure I woke up from a nightmare. Since I was drenched in sweat, I decided to take a shower. So I put my phone up in the bathroom for music, turned on the water, and enjoyed my shower. A few minutes in, I heard the door move. I never close it, but it still never moves. I took a look at the shower curtain and saw a shadow against it. And a look at my phone confirmed someone was there, since I could clearly see a reflection in my screen that showed someone standing next to the shower curtain. It took me a lot not to scream and to keep acting like I didn't notice anything, while silently taking the shower head off the holding and turning the water all the way to hot. I am still kinda impressed of that quick thinking. Our water got really hot when you cranked it all the way to hot, and a few seconds later steam was raising and the water hurt my feet flowing to the drain. I turned around, ripped the shower curtain open, and held the shower head right at the person behind. It was a woman. She screamed in pain. I whacked her in the face with the shower head and jumped out of the shower and ran to the door, taking the key out of the lock and locking it close behind me. A little later, she started to bang on the door, but the door didn't give. Thank God for German quality work. I called the cops and went to the kitchen to get my big kitchen knife, just for safety. The police came and arrested the woman, who turned out to have been the former person living in the flat and was evicted after not paying rent. Seems she made a copy of the key and came into the flat when I was at work and sometimes at night. It's possible that what woke me up in the first place was her, and honestly, I don't even want to think about it. Ever since then, I always insist that the locks are changed when I move into a new place. But honey, I am your mom. I don't remember how old I was, just that I was small enough to fit in the front baby seat of a grocery cart that had put us in the late 90s/early 2000s. I was grocery shopping with my mom at a Costco. For those who don't know the chain, it's basically a huge warehouse where everything is sold in bulk. Food, clothes, books. It's basically a Walmart, but if Walmart sold cereal boxes in counts of 3, or frozen dinners by the dozen. My mom has a habit of pulling her grocery cart down to one side of the aisle in stores, and then walking the length of the shelves, picking what she wants, and then coming back to the cart and dumping what she has in the basket. So I'm maybe 4 or 5, sitting in the front basket playing with my Game Boy Color when she pulls over to a fruit display in Costco and tells me that she's going to look at the different deals and to sit tight. I wasn't a very fidgety kid, so I said no problem. She's gone for a couple of minutes. I'm absorbed in Pokemon, so I don't really notice her walk up until the cart starts moving. Being a kid, I instinctively trust she's the one pushing the cart. I was wrong. After a moment or two, I catch out of the corner of my vision her red nails. This is a problem because my mom never paints her nails and never ever wears them long. I look up. The lady pushing the cart is a little older than my mother. Same curly black hair but pulled in a ponytail at the nape of her neck. I still remember she had tanned Italian-type skin with thick red lips, a heavy coat of eyeliner and brown eyes. She was pretty skinny. Her teeth were yellowed and she smelled like, what I didn't realize until later, bad BO. This wasn't my mom and I said so very loudly. She laughed and looked around and pushed the cart a little faster. I said it again and she looked me dead in the eyes and said, and I'm paraphrasing here because I don't remember the exact wording, "Oh sweetie, what game are you playing? I am your mom." So the way Costco is set up, at least ours, is that in the produce area, instead of aisles, they're more like islands. They're large square setups that you can see the entire length of the produce section if you walk in that area. So of course, I can see my actual mother a few displays away. As loud as I could, I remember yelling, "Mom," and watching her head whip around to look at me, right as this lady is trying to cover my mouth with her hand. I don't know if she decided then that I wasn't worth it because I was so noisy, or if looking at my mother charging from a few displays over. A side note, my mom is not a petite woman. She's built like a linebacker and played roller derby and softball throughout college, up until I was about 10. She's more of an ox than a human woman, but that's what I appreciate about her. But anyways, this woman squeezed her hand around my little face once and then booked it. My mom comes running up to me and starts asking me a million questions at once, and my little brain thinks all of a sudden that I'm in trouble for using my outdoor voice inside, because she looks mad, so I start to cry. By the time she calmed down, the lady was already gone, and reporting her to the head of security did bupkis. Store never found her inside and security cam footage showed her leaving but never with anyone else. Don't know why she picked me or what it could have been for, but I'm just glad my real mom ended up scaring her away and that nothing became of it. Alright guys, that's going to be all for today. Thank you for watching, I appreciate it. Be sure to drop a like if you enjoyed and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. So take care, I'll see you next time.